Okay, testing. I see the audio wave jumping, so probably you can hear me, right? So welcome back, boys, to the fourth and probably the final video of our Chapter 9 special edition, right? For your special vacation, right? Now, so in this video, we are going to wrap this chapter up by talking about the effects of the change in demand, change in supply. Now, you see here, I've written down the pages because I'm not going to flip through the pages. Those pages are a lot of words for no good reason, right? 好啦，所以記住啦 we are going to summarize that using a very nice table, okay? 好嘛，好啦，我哋望下啦。Now, so you see, right? 係嘛？ Now, first of all, let's remind ourselves when it comes to graphical representation, when it shifts to right. 嗱，唔該你用左同右嚟記，唔好用上同下。Do not use up and down. Use left and right. When something shifts to the right, it is increased. When the curve shifts to left, it is decreased. 嗱，唔該你記呢個，唔好用上同下。OK， 得唔得啊？ So now let's draw our table together, right? 好嘛？ Now here, okay, let's call this column. Okay, 我哋畫咗啲 column 先啊。Here, let's call this price. Of course, I'm talking about equilibrium. Another one will be equilibrium. 我唔寫啦嚇 quantity. OK， 呢個啦，第二個 column 啦。Then here we have demand increase. Demand demand decrease. 呢個 D 嚟㗎，唔係 P 嚟㗎。Then we have supply increase. We have supply decrease. OK， 好嘛？ Now let's write down the directions first, and then I'm going to explain. There are some logics behind. 好容易明嘅啫，好嘛？好啦 ，when demand increase, remember, both goes up. Demand decrease, both goes down. Supply increase, the supply is a little bit tricky, right? Supply increase, 多咗 supply, 咁咪 quantity 會上升咯。Here, decrease, right? But this one would decrease, this one would increase. OK， 嗱，我哋抄咗呢個先。Then actually it is very easy to remember the logic， 唔難嘅。OK， 嗱 let's use increase， 我哋唔好理 decrease 嗰幾難，我哋淨係理 increase 啫。Demand increase, obviously demand increase, think of it as more popular。有啲嘢啦，受歡迎咗喎。So if something becomes more popular, obviously the quantity, equilibrium quantity will increase. 呢人想買多咗 ，OK? Because something becomes more popular. The same here. When supply increase, 咩叫做供應多咗啊？供應多咗咪即係 quantity 多咗咯，冇玩啊，係咪啊 ？OK? So quantity is very easy to remember. OK? Now for here, if something becomes more popular, for example, let's say the Korean pop 係咪？而家好興嗰啲韓國嗰啲姐姐擰下咁，你就會中意睇係咪 ？Used to be if you go to a concert of a Korean pop star, right? Not very expensive. But now if you are the seller, you know this is a very popular goods. Then what would you do? 你明知有啲嘢哇好受歡迎喎。How would the price change? 你會點樣改變個價格 ？Of course, you will 坐地起價 ，you will raise the price。你明知佢受歡迎，梗係賣貴啲啦。PS5, for example, right? 係咪 ？It was so popular that the price increased. Okay, now obviously something to do with supply as well, right? But you can think of it like this. 好啦 ，another one. Supply increase, how come the price would decrease? 有冇聽嗰句啊？物以罕為貴。When something is rarer, the price would go up. So the opposite. When something is not as rare, then the price will decrease. If you remember back in Form 2 and Form 1, when I teach you Industrial Revolution, at that time, a lot of people moved from the rural area to urban area. Therefore, the supply of labor increased by a lot. What happened is that the wage wage level would decrease， 因為多人做嘛，咁咪平啲咯。你唔做，我有第二個啊，你唔好咁多結結格格啦，我俾人工低啲你咯，係嘛 ？So remember, you have learned it in your IH already. Okay, so these are the direction of changes. Okay, now before we put them together, let's draw some graphs for some illustration. OK， 好嘛？嗱，我哋有4個 graph 啊，好嘛？嗱，你自己畫大啲，嗱，你唔好怕醜啊。Remember, boys, when you draw graph, draw it bigger。唔該，你畫大少少，唔好喺度雕花。Some of your 師兄 draw like this， 你玩嘢啊？我點睇啊？你驗眼啊？要我 ？No, draw it bigger. So first case, let's draw demand increase. What would happen？ 我哋淨係升 demand 啫，好嘛？嗱，你自己畫大啲啊，我呢度唔畫咁大啦 ，OK？Because I can zoom in, I can literally just zoom in, right? So I'm not going to draw too big for you, but you yourself draw it bigger, OK？ 好嘛？你記住 P 同 Q 啊 ，label the axis first, right? Remember step number 1, always draw the original situation, OK? This is supply. This is demand, but we know we're going to shift the demand. So let's call it demand 1. 好啦 ，D1 啦。記住 before you do anything funny, draw the original equilibrium. This let's call P1, Q1. 好啦 ，now we are ready to draw the shift. Remember demand increase 係升啊，得唔得 ？We just mentioned increase shift to right， 所以我哋而家將佢係咪啊 ？Let's try to shift it to the right， 好嘛 ？Then all we need to do is to shift to right. Draw another demand on the right side of the original demand. Now let's find the new price and new quantity. According to the graph, you will see that, right? P2 is here. Increases to P2. Here. Increases to Q2. Okay, so this is how we draw increase in demand. So boys, can you help me do something on your own? Pause the video and do it on your own first before we continue. Can you draw the case of demand decrease, then the case of supply increase and supply decrease, supply decrease on your own first. Okay, now pause the video and draw it on your own, then continue. Here you go. Okay, now I suppose you have paused the video and finished drawing. So let's check the answer. Demand decrease. 嗱，你真係要話啊，你唔好去等答案啊 ，OK？ 你考試你唔識話，我就恥笑你㗎嚇，我鞭屍啊，攞你份卷 ，OK？ 好嘛 ？Now here, let's look at 嗱，記住啊 ，P and Q label them right now. Original situation, we have our D1, we have our supply. Then remember, mark the original case first. Original case P1, Q1. Then 記住啦 since this is a decrease, we shift down our demand. 好啦 down would be to the left side. Let's say we shift to here. Okay, 誇張啲好嘛 we shift it more to here. Then the new price and quantity P2, Q2. 你會見到啦係咪 now both of them dropped. Price dropped, quantity dropped. OK 好嘛嗱最後啦 in this case now let me use red for increase, green for decrease. OK 嗱我唔再落下一版啦 OK 好嘛 again hopefully you have drawn it by yourself 都係啦 P, Q here. 記住 always start with the original case of demand and supply. Let's call it S1 here. Okay, 好嘛? Then mark the original situation. P1, Q1. Now, let's draw supply increase. 記住啊 ，increase 嗱好長，我知道長係，但係都要講 is shift to the right 去右邊啊。OK， 好嘛 ？So here you will see. Let's shift the supply to the right. S2. It goes to here. So let's check what will be the new price and new quantity. You will see that. Yes, price would decrease to here. Then quantity would increase. 你發覺 supply 係唔同方向㗎。OK， 好嘛 ？Let's double check. What about decrease in supply? Decrease leftward. So here. Let's shift it to here. S2, S3. Let's call it S3. Okay, this is a decrease to the left. You will see price 3. It actually goes up from P1 to P3. And here, quantity decreases from Q1 to Q3. Okay, so this is the graphical representation of change in demand and change in supply. Okay, now so far we have done it individually, right? And we have this table, right? So naturally, on page 134 to 136, right? Read it by yourself, right? We ask the question, what if? Okay, what if, right? What if they change together? Okay, D change and S change together. Demand and supply, what if they change together? Then we need to determine, 自己寫低佢啦. The change would depend on the degree of shift. 原來係 depends on 究竟要 shift 幾多啊 ？OK 係嘛 ？Degree of shift。OK 係睇佢 shift 幾多嘅。OK now obviously there are so many cases and in some of the situations actually not just the degree of shift but we will talk about that in chapter 10。我哋第10課先講啦，係嘛 ？For now 而家 OK 99% of the cases it depends on the degree of shift only。OK 好嘛？我哋唔好理其他嘢住，好嘛 ？Now let's do several examples。OK 好嘛？ Let's assume in our case number 1, we have a case where the increase in demand and then we have an increase in supply. Okay, 好嘛？我哋而家諗啦 and the situation is the increase in demand is bigger than the increase in supply. Okay, now let's think about logic first. 我哋諗咗個 logic 先，好嘛？咩 logic 啊？又係啦，嗰個表啦。好 ，now price and quantity, and then here increase in demand, increase in supply. 嗱 ，for simplicity reason， 因為我哋而家 demand 升得多啲啊嘛。Let's use 3 arrows， 我哋用3個箭嘴啦。好啦。Then fill in the table first。我哋fill in 咗個 table 先。好啦 ，since demand increased by 3 arrows, we know price would increase by 3 arrows. Quantity would also increase by 3 arrows, right? 係嘛？好啦 ，then what about supply? Increase in supply, price would decrease, quantity would increase. Okay? 好啦 ，now adding them up together, what is the result? You will see that price, overall speaking, what will happen to price? 你會見到啦 3 arrows, 1 arrow, so we cancel out. Overall, there will still be increase in price. Quantity, increase. Definitely going to be a very large increase, right? 好嗎？嗱 therefore, let's take a look at the situation. 好啦 how do we represent that in our graph? Okay, 好嗎？ Actually, can you pause the video and try to do it by yourself first? 我想你試下自己畫唔畫到先。Okay, now, so here you go. Now, assuming you have finished drawing, let's check the answer graphically. 好啦，記住啊，你唔好偷步。Always start with the original situation. Original situation, PQ. Let's draw, this is D1 and S1. Then P1, Q1. 好啦。We need the increase in demand to be larger than the increase in supply. What do we do? 好誇張嘅 ，OK？ 嗱，記住考試誇張啲唔緊要 ，exaggerate it，OK？ Increase the demand, let's say by this much， 係嘛 ？By this much， 我哋而家升咁多 ，this is D2。While the supply, let's say increase by this much. 見唔見啊 ？Do you see? Compare them. 你 compare 下 ，little increase, big increase， 係嘛？咁我哋咪表達到咯。This is how we represent the increase in demand is much bigger than increase in supply. Then finally, mark down here. Look at here, P2 increased. OK， 嗱 P 升啱，同我哋頭先 logic 啱啦。Then Q2 here also increase, also correct. OK， 咁我哋就 check 到啦，好冇 ？So this is the case， 好嘛 ？This is the case。好啊，嗱 ，so you see we have done case one. Demand here, demand increase larger than supply increase. OK， 好嘛？嗱 ，boys, can I ask you to pause the video? I want you to do 2 cases by yourself. OK, now case 2. I want you to try. What if the decrease in supply is smaller than the increase in supply? 嗱，你今次記唔記得 ？This is same direction. This is different direction. And case number 3, I also want you to try this one. What if the increase in demand is the same as increase in supply? Okay, if you can you also draw the case of increase in demand is the same as the decrease in supply? Okay, 好嘛？嗱 pause the video for around 5 minutes and resume it until you are finished with drawing the diagrams. Okay, here you go. All right, assuming you have done it by yourself, so let's check them one by one. 我哋逐個睇啦。Okay, 好嘛？ Now, first of all, since this is the first time we learn it, so I will take it slower, right? 好嘛？你會見到啦。Let's again, we have our P, our Q. 我哋諗咗個 logic 先啊，然之後我哋跟住 logic 去做啊，好嘛？ Now, since the decrease in demand is smaller than increase in supply, so decrease in demand and then increase in supply. 我哋俾3個箭嘴啊。So here, let's fill in the table. Decrease, decrease, increase in supply, decrease, 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 increase, increase, increase. So what happened is that, let's see. We know price would be dropping by a whole lot, while the quantity you see here, cancel out, it will increase a little bit. Okay, let's draw the graph. Okay, the graph. 好啦，個 graph 點啊？start with P， start with Q， 唔好懶醒，記住 always start with the original situation D1 and S1 and label， 唔該 label 咗先 P1 and Q1。 Okay, now we decrease the demand, but the decrease needs to be much smaller. Demand 跌少少 then let's exaggerate。 好啦 ，demand 我哋不如跌咁少啊，哇 ，let's say it decrease a little bit。 Okay, decrease a little bit 係嘛？嗱 ，if you can use ruler at home 係嘛？not at home in exam 係咪用間尺啦？我呢度啊，我唔想條 video 太耐啦。OK。While the supply increased by a whole lot, then exaggerate it, okay? Exaggerate it. Let's say it increased by this much. 你見到係咪好誇張㗎？阿 Sir 畫得好誇張㗎。Decrease a little, increase by a lot. So let's check what would be the new price and quantity. Okay, new price will be here, P2. 咦，啱啦，跌咗。Then quantity, we need it to increase, right? A little bit, right? Let's see here. Q2, right here. Yes, 你見到啦。Q2 increase, P2 decreases. Yes, this is the answer we want. OK， 嗱，阿 Sir， 如果我唔夠誇張，會發生咩事啊？ Let's imagine now you shift the supply only a little bit. Okay, let's say this is S3. You will see what happens is that quantity would end up in here, which would decrease. Doesn't match with our logic. So this is wrong. This is wrong. OK， 所以如果你畫圖誇張啲，好冇？誇張啲，好嗎？ All right, now finally, what about the case of when the shift is the same? OK， 好啦，我哋都係啦，照舊啦。Think about logic first. OK， 我哋諗咗個 logic 先啊。The logic goes like this。又嚟啦噃。Now P Q。 Now since they are the same, right? So let's just say increase in demand, increase in supply, increase, this one, decrease, increase, adding together. 今次你發覺啦，因為佢哋一樣啦。What happened is that this one actually cancels out. There will be no change in price. While increase, you will see the quantity should increase. Okay, 好嘛？ Let's try to draw the graph. 呢個講咗好多次啦。Again, draw the original situation first. Demand 1, supply 1, and label them. 唔該你啊，乖乖地啊 ，label 咗先啊。Okay, now we need to shift them by the same degree. So here, let's do it. 我哋是但啦，我哋畫咗 demand shift 咁多先啦，好嘛？ D2. So the shift will be this much. 好啦 then we also shift the supply by this much. Okay, we'll go like this. Okay, supply. You will see both the shift in demand and supply is the same in this case. What happens to the quantity? Q2 increase, match our case. What about price? You will see that it actually matches the exact point, right? P2 is the same as P1. Okay, this is how we draw it. Okay, 得唔得？ So this is a case of same direction. 又係啦，你發覺啦，係 same direction. What about the case of different direction? 好啦，一樣啦，都係啦。畫圖之前 ，think about the logic. P, Q, then increase in demand, decrease in supply. Increase. Now here, you will see supply decrease, price increase, quantity decreases. Adding together, you will see that this time quantity cancels out, no change, while the price will go up, 係咪？兩個加埋咪升升咯 ，OK 好嘛 ？Graphically goes like this, P, Q, OK 好嘛？嗱，again original case D1 S1 嗱，應該做到爛啦，而家係咪啊 ？P1 Q1 original case. Now we need to increase and decrease to be the same. It will be a little bit tricky， 係有少少 tricky 嘅 ，OK 好嘛？嗱 ，so let's say we shift the demand first， 好嘛？我哋而家 demand 升 ，let's say it increase by this much， 好嘛？而家啦，你見到咁啊 demand 升咁多啦，好嘛？ Now we need to draw a parallel， OK？ We need to draw a parallel， OK？ 好嘛 ？So how do we draw a parallel？ 咁啊，我哋認住啦 ，this is the length, right? Let's shift it to here， OK？ 係嘛？我哋啦 shift 落嚟啦 ，or right? We use the point here, here, right? We use the same length here, and we can 揾翻條 supply 先 ，supply is here， OK？ 睇先，我個箭嘴畫準啲先，我箭嘴畫準少少先啊 ，OK？ 嗱 ，the technique is that we find a point， 我哋揾一個撞到 supply 嘅位，畫呢個箭嘴 ，OK？So you see the length would be from here to here， OK？ From here to here. From this point on, we just shift the supply exactly to here. OK， 好嘛？我哋會 shift 條 supply 過嚟呢度咯 ，S2。Then the length will be exactly the same， 係嘛？應該完全一樣啦 ，because we touch S1 and then we shift it back，right？ 係嘛 ？So what happens？ 嗱，呢個畫得唔夠 parallel 啦。OK， 阿 Sir 畫得唔夠 ，so use a ruler, right? I'm not drawing in a parallel, but here you will actually let's use a ruler here. 我哋今次應該要間尺幫手啦。Let me find my ruler first. Okay, where's my ruler? Yes, here. 好啦，我哋冚掉重練啊！我哋今次需要把間尺幫手啊！我哋需要把間尺幫手啊 ！We need the ruler. Okay. 嚟多次 ，the case is demand 睇下先 ，the case is demand increase, supply decrease, right？ 係嘛？我望多次先，係啦，第一次 ，case of number 4， demand increase equals to decrease in supply。OK， 好嘛？今次有個 case 啊，畫大少少啊。So here, P, Q, okay, original situation, D1, S1, okay, 好嘛 ？So here, P1, Q1, 好啦 ，demand increase， 咁啊，大家有間尺㗎嘛 ？So how do we make sure this is a parallel shift of the same degree？ 好容易啫。你把間尺係嘛 ？The length 係嘛 ？Here the width of the ruler is exactly the same across the whole ruler, right? So we use this tool 嗱 demand increase, right 係嘛 ？Demand increase. So let's use a ruler to draw this one. 咦，畫唔到嘅 ，sorry 啊 ，I can't draw anything. Okay, this is D2 係嘛 ？Increase. Now let's shift the supply by the same amount. How do we make sure the supply will be the same amount, right? 係嘛 ？The ruler again 係嘛 ？The ruler will provide the same length to you. Therefore, it goes like this. 係嘛 supply here decrease in supply. So what happens to the D2 and S2? 你小心啊，揾 D2 同 S2 撞嗰點啊 You will see here quantity it's exactly the same, doesn't change, right? But what happens to the price? You will see that price would go up by a lot. Okay, so this is the case, which also match our conclusion, right? Quantity doesn't change, price increased by a whole lot. Exactly the case here. Okay, 係嘛？我哋用把間尺啊 use the width of the ruler as a definite tool， 一定係 shift 咁多嘛。OK， 好嘛 ？Suppose now this is so much for the theories of the chapter 9 change in demand and change in supply. So hopefully these 4 videos will have given you a basic idea of what is going on for chapter 9. So you check in a Google Classroom and in a WhatsApp group, right? We have several days of supplementary lessons, right? Now, what I'm expecting from you is that you watch these videos before attending the supplementary lessons, so that in supplementary lessons, we are going to look at, right, the past paper questions and exercise. I'm not going to spend time to talk about these in details again. Okay, so boys, see you in the supplementary lessons then. All right, see you then. Bye-bye.